The village of Nambala stood where the river bent like an old man's trembling arm, embracing fields of tall millet, before disappearing into a forest so ancient that even the elders spoke of it with lowered voices. At dawn, the mist floated over the water like wandering spirits, and every morning the villagers greeted the sun with quiet gratitude, believing that each new day was a gift borrowed from the ancestors. Yet among all who lived beneath those golden skies, none carried a heavier burden than the orphan called Kito. People often said sorrow had chosen him before he could even speak. His mother had died bringing him into the world. His father, a loyal hunter, vanished into the king's forbidden forest before the boy celebrated his second harvest. Some claimed wild beasts had claimed him. Others whispered that soldiers had found him where no common man should have walked. No one knew the truth. In time, questions became silence. Kito grew beneath the care of whoever could spare a crust of bread or a corner of a sleeping mat. Kindness came in small pieces, but cruelty arrived whole. As he grew taller, he worked harder than boys, twice his age. Before sunrise, he fetched water from the river. When the market awoke, he carried baskets heavier than his shoulders deserved. By evening, he chopped firewood until splinters buried themselves beneath his skin. Yet no matter how much he labored, there were always voices ready to remind him of what he lacked. A tree without roots cannot stand forever. The words followed him like a shadow. Whenever something disappeared, suspicious eyes found him first. Whenever rain ruined the harvest, someone muttered that misfortune always walked beside an orphan. Kito answered none of them. He had learned that silence sometimes protected a wounded heart better than anger ever could. Still, there remained one person who refused to see him as cursed. Old Mother Sailor lived at the edge of the village in a hut nearly swallowed by climbing vines. Many believed she understood the language of birds. Others claimed she had once advised kings before choosing a life of solitude. Children feared her, but Kito never did. Every seventh evening, he carried water to her home without being asked. She never paid him. Instead, she gave him stories. Listen carefully, Orphan whispered, while feeding dry sticks into the fire. Gold is not always buried beneath the earth. Sometimes the greatest treasure is buried inside silence. The words puzzled him. What kind of treasure cannot be touched? She smiled without answering. Outside, the wind sighed through the trees as though it already knew what waited ahead. Years passed. The kingdom prospered under King Jabari, a ruler admired across distant lands for his wisdom and strength. Merchants traveled for weeks to sell silk, spices, and carved ivory beneath the palace walls. Musicians filled the royal courts with songs celebrating peace. Children grew believing their king had never known fear, but appearances often wear masks. Behind the palace gates, where polished stone reflected every torchlight, another story breathed beneath the surface. King Jabari slept little. Every night he locked himself inside a chamber no servant could enter. Every morning his eyes appeared darker. His closest advisor, Lord Tembo, watched these changes with growing curiosity. Tembo has served beside the throne for nearly 20 years. He wore loyalty like a finely woven robe, but beneath it lived ambition colder than iron. He wanted more than influence. He wanted power. One evening, while the palace celebrated another successful harvest, Tembo noticed the king quietly slipping away from the feast. Guards followed. No servants accompanied him. Only silence. Tembo waited until the corridor emptied before following from a careful distance. The king descended winding stone steps leading beneath the palace itself. Torches flickered along damp walls older than memory. Finally, He stopped before a heavy bronze door decorated with carvings of lions surrounding a single eye. The king removed a necklace hidden beneath his robe. Upon it hung an unusual key, unlike any forged by ordinary craftsmen. The lock opened for only a heartbeat. Before Tembo could move closer, the bronze door closed once again. The advisor saw nothing beyond it, yet that single glimpse awakened a hunger impossible to silence. "What does the king hide?" he whispered to himself. Questions became obsession. Obsession slowly became danger. Far beyond the palace walls, Kito knew nothing of secrets buried beneath stone. His own battle remained much simpler. One afternoon, the village chief announced that every household must contribute labor toward repairing the eastern bridge before the rainy season. Those without families would work twice as long. Everyone looked toward Kito. No one objected. For 3 exhausting days he hauled timber beneath a scorching sun, while others rested in the shade. His hands bled, his back burned, yet continued without complaint. During the final evening, dark clouds gathered above the hills. Thunder roared across the valley. The workers hurried home before the storm. Only Kito remained behind, collecting abandoned tools so they would not wash into the river. That simple act changed everything. As lightning illuminated the forest edge, he noticed something lying beneath an ancient baobab tree, a leather satchel. Its owner was nowhere to be seen. Rain poured harder. Kito picked it up, intending to leave it safely inside the chief's storehouse. But the satchel suddenly slipped from his hands. Its contents scattered across the wet ground. Several ordinary items rolled into the mud. A small knife, a warm blanket, a wooden cup. Then something wrapped in faded red cloth landed at his feet. Curious, he carefully unfolded the fabric. Inside rested a smooth black stone, unlike any he had ever seen. Surface shimmered despite the darkness. Etched upon it was the same strange symbol carved onto the hidden bronze door beneath the royal palace, a lion surrounding a single eye. The instant his fingers touched it, violent gusts swept through the trees. Birds exploded into the night sky. The forest fell unnaturally silent. Even the rain seemed to hesitate. Kito's heartbeat echoed inside his ears. Then he heard footsteps, not one pair, several. Torches flickered between the trees. Ujas, instinct forced him behind the massive roots of the baobab moments before armored men entered the clearing. The captain said it fell somewhere here. Search every inch. If anyone else finds it first, we're all dead. Kito clutched the mysterious stone against his chest, scarcely daring to breathe. The soldiers searched the clearing with frantic urgency. One walked so close that muddy water splashed across Kito's bare feet. Another examined the abandoned satchel. "It's empty. It cannot be. It was here." Their captain arrived moments later, his face pale beneath the rain. "You fools," he growled. "Do you understand what happens if Lord Tembo learns we've lost it?" At the mention of the royal advisor, every soldier lowered his eyes. "No one leaves this forest. Find the king's seal." The words struck Kito like thunder. The king's seal. Look down at the black stone trembling in his hand. It was no ordinary object. It belonged to the king himself. And somehow, by nothing more than chance, the poorest orphan in the kingdom had become the keeper of something powerful enough to make hardened soldiers tremble in fear. Hidden beneath the roots, while rain swallowed every sound, Kito realized that his lonely life had just crossed paths with a secret far greater than he could possibly imagine. He did not yet know why the seal mattered, why Lord Tembo sought it with such desperation. or why the king had kept its existence hidden from the entire kingdom. He knew only one thing with absolute certainty. If the soldiers discovered him before the storm ended, he would never leave the forest alive. Kito remained hidden until the soldiers' voices faded into the storm. His legs trembled as he stepped from behind the great baobab, the black seal still clenched tightly in his hand. Every instinct told him to throw it into the river and forget he had ever seen it. Yet Mother Sailor's words echoed in his mind. Sometimes the greatest treasure is buried inside silence. He wrapped the seal in the red cloth, tucked it beneath his shirt, and hurried through the darkness. The village was asleep when he reached Mother Sailor's hut. She opened the door before he could knock, as though she had been expecting him. "You found it," she said quietly. Kito froze. "How did you know?" Instead of answering, she lit another candle. Its warm glow fell upon the black stone. The old woman's face lost all color. "So, the secret has returned. You know what this is? I know enough to fear it." She stared into the fire before speaking again. "Long ago, before you were born, the king swore an oath to protect something that could destroy the kingdom if it reached the wrong hands. Only a handful of people knew the truth. And this seal, it opens the path to that secret." Before Kito could ask another question, hurried footsteps sounded outside. Mother Sailor blew out the candle. "Hide." A loud knock shook the wooden door. Royal soldiers entered without waiting for permission. Their captain scanned the tiny hut with sharp eyes. "Old woman, have you seen a young orphan tonight?" Mother Sailor met his gaze without flinching. "I have seen many children in my lifetime." His jaw tightened. "We are searching for stolen royal property." She smiled faintly. "Then perhaps you should search the palace before troubling the poor." The captain glared at her, but found nothing. After a tense silence, the soldiers finally left. Only when their footsteps disappeared did Kito emerge. "They return," he whispered. "Yes? What should I do?" Mother Sailor looked directly into his eyes. "You must reach the king before Lord Tembo reaches you." Far away inside the palace, Lord Tembo stood before King Jabari with practiced humility. "Your Majesty," he said, "the seal has not been recovered." For the first time in years, fear crossed the king's face. "Then someone else has it." Tembo lowered his head, hiding the satisfaction in his eyes. "I will personally find whoever stole it." The king nodded, unaware that the man before him desired the seal more than anyone else in the kingdom. As dawn broke over Nambala, word spread quickly through the village. Royal soldiers had arrived. They questioned every family. They searched every home, and they offered a rich reward for anyone who revealed the whereabouts of an orphan named Hito Neighbors, who had ignored him yesterday, suddenly remembered seeing him near the bridge. Others invented stories, hoping to earn the king's silver. Watching from the edge of the forest, Kito realized something painful. The people he had lived among all his life would hand him over without hesitation. For the first time, he understood that he could trust almost no one. With the mysterious seal hidden beneath his clothes and the entire kingdom beginning to haunt him, Kito stepped onto the forest path leading toward the royal capital, unaware that Lord Tembo had already sent his fastest riders ahead to ensure the orphan would never reach the king alive. The forest swallowed Kito as he journeyed toward the capital. Every snapping twig made him turn. Every distant hoofbeat sent his heart racing. He slept little, surviving on wild berries and water from narrow streams. Though exhaustion weighed on him, he never removed the king's seal from beneath his shirt. By the third evening, towers of the royal city appeared above the trees, glowing in the light of the setting sun. Relief washed over him. but it lasted only a moment. 3 riders blocked the road. Each wore the king's colors. Their leader smiled. "You must be Kito." The orphan hesitated. "The king sent you. We've come to take you safely to the palace." For a brief moment, Kito wanted to believe them. Then he noticed something strange. None of the riders wore the royal lion upon their armor. Instead, hidden beneath their cloaks, each carried the mark of a single eye surrounded by a lion's mane, the same symbol carved into the seal. Mother Sila's warning returned to him. "You must reach the king before Lord Tembo reaches you." Without another word, Kito turned and ran. The riders charged after him. Branches whipped across his face as he raced through the trees. Arrows struck the ground behind him. One grazed his shoulder, tearing his shirt but missing his skin. He stumbled over a fallen log and rolled down a rocky slope before crashing into the river. Below, the freezing water carried him farther downstream. By the time he pulled himself onto the riverbank, night had fallen and the riders were gone. Weak and soaked, Kito climbed toward a small shrine built into the hillside. An old man in faded robes emerged, holding a lantern. "I've been waiting," stranger said. Kito frowned. "You know me. I knew your father." The words stopped him cold. "My father?" The old man nodded slowly. "He was not merely a hunter. He was Captain Baraka, the king's most trusted guardian." Kito could barely breathe, but everyone said he disappeared. He did not disappear. The old man's eyes filled with sorrow. He died protecting the king's greatest secret. From inside the shrine, he brought out an old leather bundle. Wrapped inside was a faded cloak bearing the royal crest and a worn journal. "Your father left these with me. He said that if anything happened to him, they were to be given to his son." Kito opened the journal with trembling hands. The first page carried a message written in firm, careful handwriting. Stress. "If you are reading this, my son, it means I failed to return to you. Never believe those who call you worthless. Your life was protected for a reason. One day, you will stand before the king, and only then will the truth be complete." Asterisk. Tears blurred Kito's vision. For years, he had believed his father had abandoned him. Instead, the man had died trying to protect both the king and his own child. At that very moment inside the palace, Lord Tembo received troubling news. The boy escaped, his face hardened. "Then we end this tonight." He gathered a handful of loyal guards and rode out himself. He no longer cared whether Kito arrived alive. He cared only about one thing, the king's seal. But as dawn approached, Kito and the old guardian reached the palace through a forgotten passage beneath the city walls. They emerged inside the ancient chamber with the bronze door marked by the lion and the single eye. King Javari stood waiting. His expression changed the instant he saw the young orphan. Then his eyes fell upon the cloak and the journal. "Baraka's son." The king whispered. Kito stepped forward and held out the black seal. "I believe this belongs to you." Before the king could answer, the chamber doors burst open. Lord Tembo entered with drawn sword. "It belongs," he declared, "to whoever is strong enough to claim it." The secret that had been buried for decades was finally about to be revealed.